What is up, winning team, and welcome to part 3 of the series I'm doing called The Misogyny in Religion. Yeah, we're in part 3. If you guys don't know why we're doing this, I actually have really good reason to be doing this. Check out the introduction video. I'm not going to be explaining it, but believe it or not, my desire is for unity amongst men and women, okay? So that's why we're doing this, so we can address our problems, so we can fix them, okay? So we can all move on. Stop letting the devil run rampant, okay? Thank you. So we're going to be talking today about the prompt ways your cult used information control to keep isolated and unaware, keep you isolated and unaware of the outside world, or to make you not believe information from the outside world. So let's not forget that we have extreme cults from Amish Mennonites, the extreme fundamentalist Islamists, the extreme fundamentalist Christians, the Hasidic Jew, some Mormons, and also two of the ladies were Mormons. One of them was Nixism. And by the way, these are all from a video that I watched called 8 Women from 8 Cults, who all talked about this on a channel called Cults to Consciousness. And these ladies were sharing the topics of their experiences. Very interesting to me. So let's go through some of the things that the information control, essentially, and how it was used to keep them isolated. So essentially, all of these different things, we're going through if you think about it, the different tactics used, not just in cults. I feel like in religion, it's done in to a degree to which it's enough to keep you in the door and for you to not feel completely controlled, and you're not completely controlled, but it's not to an extreme that you can necessarily call it a cult like what these ladies experience. That's why I'm just calling it misogyny in religion, because obviously this is all based on, all of these comments are based on their perspective as women in particular. So not just for people in general, but particularly as women, right? And how this affects them particularly as women. And so, yeah, I feel that it's a lot of these things, especially when, because I've said to you guys before that. Anyway, we'll come to it. Okay, let's just get to the points. I've got so much to say. There's so many videos. So one of the ladies mentioned the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, which actually works with the current cabinet, which is that at the time of the video was Joe Biden, or I guess Kamala Harris, because she took over, and Project 2025, which is very interesting that, there's governmental things in connection with these cults. She said that they were threatened that if they strayed, police would show up and take their kids for homeschooling if they ever ran, and they even ran drills for if they ran away. So basically what they're trying to say is that they had to keep things quiet and they couldn't let anybody know what they were doing, and they had to remain isolated, because if the government found out that they were homeschooling and they were doing what they did, then they would come and take their kids. So they even went as far as to do these drills. So what you're going to notice is a lot of these things is just reasons why don't speak up, don't tell anyone. Like we the reason why we keep all these things to ourselves, the reason why you can't do that is because these people out there, they have these ill will, this ill intent against you, kind of scaring going on, right? Another tactic they would use, no unsupervised contact with the outside world. So they would always have to be supervised. A lot of these things are highly specific to women. I would like to also point out, like I said, a lot of these things are highly specific to women. And you're going to notice a trend that, again, there's the rules that apply to women, there's many of them. The rules that apply to men are a lot less serious. And again, look, I'll tell you guys what I think about that as well before we get even further. Listen, we do still live in a patriarchal system, and religion is very patriarchal. Thank God I'm not a religious person. I'm not in any religion. I am a Bible-believing, Holy Spirit-filled follower of Jesus Christ, but I'm not part of any religion, and I don't identify with any religion, just to be clear. All I have to say is do whatever you want to do on this planet. Like, this is how I feel about these types of scenarios. Like, when I see like how some of these men, like to go around peacocking themselves with their chests held high, enjoying themselves very much, dominating tyrannically. I'm like, you know what? Do you, boo? Because guess what? We're all going to have to be held accountable for our actions on Judgment Day. Even if you take advantage of me for the entirety of my entire life, guess what? I'm sure of where I'm going to be on the other side, and I'm just here trying to do my best. So fool who you want here. Fool everybody here. This is what I'm saying. Like, if you're a real believer of the Bible, this is what another thing I want to just say. If you're a victim of any of these things, if any of these people were really people that really knew any type of the actual God, the real one true living God, they would know they can't hide anything from him, and they would know not to mess around like this with his people. That's why I don't mess around with people, because I'm like, God takes other humans very seriously. So there's that, right? So they'll be isolated in a communal way. So what one of the ladies was saying is, when you have all of these communes with all the different women, and the sister wives are cooking together or doing this, or the kids can all play together, there's a better sense of community sometimes than the sense of community that women can have in society, which you guys have heard me actually talk about that quite a lot. I was even talking about it frequently, how it's really hard, I feel, as women to have good, healthy, consistent groups of women in a familial, family-oriented sense. You know what I mean? And then, of course, the argument of the not all Muslims, not all Christians, right? So we won't even get into that, but that's why I don't want to entertain titles for anything to do with myself, because I think that's just a bit of a gaslight, to try and say not all. That's why you haven't heard me at any point here say, I just want you guys to know that not all Christians are like I'm not going to do that, because that's exactly what these people are doing, and it's like it's just disgusting. Everyday extremism. Why did I write that? Not sure I wrote that. It says romantic. So this was in terms of the Amish Mennonites. So romanticism of it. So it's romanticizing society which protects and defends the religion in the name of unity, and then disregarding they are defending misogynistic practices, for example. And then so they were talking basically about, because they get romanticized in one way or the other. So like one of the ladies was talking about, it's the doing the homeschooling, and being, living in that environment, making the sourdough bread. It gets very romanticized, and they actually talk a lot about how this has been on social media, which we'll come to later on. And then the lady who comes from the extreme fundamentalist Islamic background cult, she was saying how society, in their bid to the romanticism of like, let's be united, let's accept everything, so they won't critique those kinds of cults because they'll be seen to be being Islamophobic. You see what I'm saying? So isn't it funny how sometimes in society, when we're trying to be let's just love everybody and accept everything, sometimes doing that, we're actually protecting the people that actually need the help, who actually need to have the voice. Because you all might be there saying, defending, oh, but that's just their way of, we should let everybody live how they want to live there. And then they're using your same tactic of, oh, you're being Islamophobic, to get people like, oh, how could you say this about our religion, our beliefs? How could you call us a culture being Islamophobic? See what I'm saying? See how that works? Yeah. So this is where it starts to get even more interesting. So in terms of information control, in like the Hasidic services, only men were allowed to be there. Interestingly enough, the lady who was speaking on behalf of the Hasidic community was saying that there were a lot of politicians there all the time, which she found very fascinating. And women were not allowed to participate. She couldn't believe that the most liberal politicians were sitting there. Yeah. This is what you guys don't understand, that these things are all connected. I've been telling you guys in the previous videos, I've been uploading a lot. I feel like I'm back in my groove. Yeah. All of these things, all of the problematic powers of the world are all working together. It's all one kingdom, and they're just all different factions. Okay? So you guys just got to understand that part as well. So I totally believe that. And then Hasidic people not teaching in English. So a lot of them don't even speak English at all, which again, religion is something that has been used as a manipulative tool. Historically, if you look back at the Catholic Church, there was a period of time where they only read the Bible in Latin. In fact, I remember even when I was at school, I was a teenager. I remember, because obviously from where I came from, I was always told that if somebody tells you something's in the Bible, you need to ask them where that thing is, right? So that's why I do that. Like, so where is that scripture that you're mentioning? Show me where that is so I can read it for myself. One of the tactics that the Catholic Church used historically was having the scriptures, and a lot of actually belief systems have done that in a different language, so that whoever's translating it, the priest or whatever, they can tell you it says whatever. And this is how they get away with this stuff, because you're not there's a language barrier. They weaponize that. So because this lady who was speaking, she lives in the United States. If she's saying that there's people there that don't even speak English, that means that all it takes, and I've experienced manipulative people utilizing the fact that there's a language that they're speaking and that you don't know, in order to be talking about and plotting things. I mean, it's the classic, right? The girlies, us when we go to get our nails done, and they're all, talking trash about us in their own language. So that's interesting. Oh yeah, she mentioned that there's a weird connection between nationalist Christians and Hasidic communities. Oh, this was a good one. So this is the lady from the Nixon thing, which is like self-help, self-success, self-development. Like I said, the one where she kept referencing like a Tony Robbins, kind of like, this is how you succeed, whatever. She talked about this really interesting concept, which is protecting internal representation. You know what? Should I make this a separate video? Because this is a really interesting point. Yeah, let's talk about that separately. So we're going to split. I like this because I'm trying not to make these videos too long. Let's do that. We'll leave that here, right? So we've seen it. We'll come to that next point, because she talks about protecting internal representation. That's a concept I really want to get more into. So we'll do that as its own video. Otherwise, this video will end up being like 20 minutes. I'm trying to keep them. Are you guys proud of me? I'm doing good. Yeah, so you guys can see here, a lot of it is just making sure you can't hear from the outside world, like controlling this narrative, telling you that if you go to the authorities, that's a big one that kept coming up, like this idea that if you go to the authorities, if you call the police, this is only going to backfire on you, right? The people out there, they don't understand what they're doing. This is why they're going to hell. This is why they're the ones, whatever. A lot of the weaponization of that, a lot of the control of like not being supervised, making sure that you can't go anywhere, all of this lack of freedom. And that's one thing that I want to just highlight that is so anti-biblical, because God said, be fruitful and multiply, right? Think about Adam and Eve. And this is where I feel like, that whole story is just so much to unpack in that story, right? If you think about Adam and Eve, Eve actually had the freedom to eat the fruit. Is something I'd actually like to point out quickly, right? Eve actually had the freedom to eat the fruit, and also the freedom for the snake to speak to her. Why am I mentioning that? Now, albeit she made bad choice, and so did Adam. And that's the other thing I'd like people to remember. Because, again, I feel like a lot of this misogynism in religion is like basing off of what Eve did, and like, well, Eve was the one who did it all. Adam also wasn't very much doing what he needed to do in the garden either. And that's exactly what I would like to point out here. Because if you really were these macho men, like big, whatever you want to call yourselves, then how comes, first of all, you didn't have the self-control to resist when you knew better and you're supposed to be so-called logical one, right? How comes, where was all your logic then? Where was all your pragmatism then, and all your whatever you are, right? And all your logic or head over heart and no feelings, whatever. Where was all of that? Yeah, exactly. Same place where it is with these cult leaders. It was the other, you're thinking with the wrong brain, my friend. Yeah, I said it. So this is what I'm trying to say. Like, we got to recognize that we both have things. And there's an underlying element of this misogyny where I feel like these guys feel this entitlement because, oh, Eve's the one who ate the fruit. And Adam was still still a slave just like these same cult leaders. So maybe we all have things we need to work on, is my point. Anyways, I'll see you guys in part 4, where we're going to talk about this internal representation, because it's actually a really cool theory. On that note, like I said, guys, I'm just trying to correct the initial problem that we started with. So just give me a chance. Hear me out. Because realistically, I love everybody and I just want to see us all win. Anyways, if life is a game, let's play to win. God bless you all. God loves you. I love you. And I'll see you in my next one.